I mean, there are some certain issues with some suttas too, because they have been coming down to us in oral tradition for many centuries. Only in Sri Lanka, at a certain time in the history, they were compiled into the text. Now, text means Ola manuscripts. But nowadays, they don't have these Ola manuscripts anymore. The earliest Ola manuscript the Sri Lankan government has is dating back to 13th century. Now, the time that the original Ola manuscripts were supposed to have been compiled was 1st century almost. That means on one side they are making some arguments. Is that one argument is Ola manuscript cannot be kept that long, so it itself has an expiry. On the other hand, colonialization. Some Portuguese who came to Sri Lanka in 1500, they say they must have probably destroyed, burned them. But anyways, the earliest manuscript that we have in Sri Lanka about Pali text is only going back to 13th century. The earliest manuscript that we have across all Buddhist traditions going back to Gandhara. It's by the Dharmaguptikas. It's a Vinaya manuscript. So that means when we study about texts, we have to know what they are, right? Otherwise, you are painting every tradition in the same brush, right? You might perhaps not know what they are. But anyways, now if you go to Sri Lanka, if you go to a temple, like a library, if you want to see some Ola manuscripts, most of them are Burmese or Siamese, not Sinhalese. Right? So there were certain issues. Even the Pali canon that they made in 1955, which they all talk about, which they all depend on their Dhamma talks, they were mostly based on the Myanmar and Thai Siamese texts. So we have a problem understanding what happened to the Mahavihara tradition. The Mahavihara means the Sri Lankan original Venerable Mahinda's traditional way of bringing Dhamma. So was it kind of died out at a certain point? Yes, it was died out at certain periods of times. But they say it went on to Sukhothai in Thailand, and when the Buddhism is back to normal, monks from Sukhothai kingdom brought Buddhism back to Sri Lanka. So we have to understand, because even though we have a text, it is more appropriate to study text, but still we should not just merely blindly believe text. Why is it? Because in the Buddha's teachings, Buddha himself says, Ma pitaka sampadānena. Do not just believe my Dhamma just because they were coming down in a pitaka. So we have to be careful. On one side, yes, we need to consult, but we should not merely base on it. So because we have this rationalization, understanding, comparing with other texts. Now all these canons have their own counterparts, Sanskrit and all that. So I'm just telling you, don't just merely base on one thing. But so far, we understand there is a certain area of Pali Buddhism that we call as early Buddhism, on which we normally base our understanding. So I think it is a safer zone for us to learn about Dhamma. Can you think about what is that area? Now from all the Buddhist texts, if you study, there's a certain area in the development of Buddhism that we say these are the particular books of the collections that they are more suitable to study, more suitable to trust and believe for our Dhamma understanding. So as you understand, there are 3 Pitakas, but the word Pitaka is not used by the Buddha himself, Shakyamuni Buddha. It was a labeling made by senior Sangha. So we normally say 𝗕𝘂𝗀𝗃 Majjhima Nikāya are the earliest teachings of the Buddha. And 𝗕𝘂𝗀𝗃 Nikāya was added later on. And there are certain early teachings too, but mostly the books were added because the number of 𝗕𝘂𝗃 Nikāya books in Sri Lanka, Thailand and Burma vary. You don't see the same number. 15 is the Sri Lankan one. In some countries it is 17 as such. So mainly we believe 𝗕𝘂𝗀 Majjhima Nikāya Nikāyas are the original teachings of the Buddha, from which Mahayana, Vajrayana, even Theravada started. Now you might say, Theravada, early Buddhism, they are similar. No. Theravada group, there are many schools. There were many, Hinayana schools. One of them was Theravada. Sarvastivada is also part of Theravada school at that time. So, Theravada school did not die out. Other Theravada schools died out. So now we have to believe in the Theravada. But when you look at the development, Theravada is not early Buddhism. Why do I say so? Abhidhamma is not mainly taken as early Buddhism. Abhidhamma is taken as an Theravadin's addition to the teachings. And later they make a narration that the Buddha went to the heaven and then taught the Abhidhamma, and then every day in that vassa came down to Anuttatta lake and told all the Abhidhamma to the Arahant Sariputta. They made a story like that. I mean, I'm not disrespecting. This is one story. They are trying to, because there was a problem in understanding Abhidhamma as a part of the Buddhist teachings. There were groups of monks, they were separated. One is Sautrantikas. Sautrantikas only believe sutras. They rejected Abhidhamma. So in this way, I'm trying to tell you, you need to know this context before touching the Pali text. And you have to touch the original Pali text. They are Dīgha, Majjhima, Saṅyutta, Aṅgutta. Alright? So from which all the other schools started. So when you are asked, what is your Buddhism? It is early Buddhism. It's neither Theravada, nor Mahayana, or Vajrayana. You are an early Buddhist because you don't want to be a school Buddhist. Right? Alright, now let's go back to the importance of studying a sutta. Now you know the references for the sutta study. Now why do we study suttas?